The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
So hello and welcome to another episode of the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley, and I'm joined today, as always, by Star Sport editor Liam MacCarthy. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose Credit Union, choose local, choose community. Now this week, I don't know, has anybody noticed with all the bunting and the flags up around the county and especially in West Cork, but it is All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final week and we have hurling fever down here in Southern Star HQ, as well as Cork face Tipperary in the All-Ireland final this Sunday in Croke Park. In a while, we will be joined by Cork hurling legend Diarmuid The Rock O'Sullivan to discuss the game in detail. But before that, we'll discuss the game between ourselves, Kieran, obviously, for the game this weekend, which throws in at 3:30 in Croke Park this Sunday. I suppose, first of all, we have to mention the fan hype. Like the amount of flags around the place, like every building going to work, you see around the place, it has a Cork flag. Every car passing through the place has a Cork flag. Like it's absolutely incredible, and it's been probably happening ever since maybe the Munster final against Limerick, but it's ramped up this week.
Yeah, you can see there's certainly a movement and a noise behind the Cork hurlers, and like I talked about in the podcast before, Matthew, like it's definitely one of the stories of the summer, just that sea of red that's just pushing this kind of this Cork team forward. And I suppose the All-Ireland semi-final against Dublin in Croke Park, when you had probably 55,000-60,000 Cork fans kind of out of an 82,000 attendance, like just an absolutely incredible sight. There really is a lot of excitement around this Cork hurling team. Of course, you always have that kind of hardcore hurling support, like kind of the fans who've been there through the good times and the leaner times in recent years. But this season, and even going back to last season, I suppose, when the Cork got to the All-Ireland final, it's just a story that seemed to have captured the imagination of so many more people, you know. That's why you've such a swell of support behind this Cork team. And I think it's just because people are kind of unified and united by this kind of sense of pride in their home county, you know, to see this Cork team doing so well, represent the county so well. Obviously won the league earlier in the year, won the Munster Championship. There's just a lot of excitement here, and always this kind of feeling that this team is on the verge of something. And I add into the fact that the county hasn't won the Liam MacCarthy since 2005. Like that's a pretty long wait for a proud hurling county like Cork. So it's like you put all the pieces of the jigsaw together, and it kind of you're looking at it and like, Jesus, there is like you just feel like Cork are on the cusp of something special. But the bottom line is there's still a match to be won, still a job to be done on Sunday up in Croke Park. And you have to think that Tipper loving this match, as in, because like you said there's the hype, the expectation, the excitement, and that'll be the same in Tipperary too. But the pressure and the expectation is on Cork now to go finish the job, kind of complete the treble, complete the perfect season. But as excitement goes, yeah, this is right up there.
You mentioned the Tip might be loving this in terms of the hype around social media and things like that. There were a few posts saying that Cork have already won the cup, which obviously isn't the case. But do you see Cork as favourites genuinely?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you kind of have to see this Cork team as favourites, because it's the journey that they put on, and I think that's kind of stood out for me in the last while. Go back to last year's All-Ireland final, and maybe we were a bit surprised that Cork kind of got to the final at that stage in their journey. Lost that game against Clare, but that showed them that they got so close, and it kind of showed, okay, like we're close, like we need to take that next step, and the next step is by winning the big games and winning silverware. That's something that Cork teams hadn't done for the last number of years. That's why winning the Division 1 league this year, winning the final, so important. It's like getting that tangible piece of silver that you can hold and show like that Cork can win a final, that they can, that this team can get over the line. Then to go win Munster, and I think the kind of key point of Cork winning Munster is, okay, brilliant to beat Limerick in the Munster hurling final, kind of so dramatic, penalty shootout. But you only go back a couple of weeks beforehand when Limerick had hockeyed Cork, I think it was by 16 points up in the Gaelic ground. So to bounce back from that and to beat Limerick in the Munster final and end their dominance of the provincial series, I think people learned a lot about the character of this Cork team, and they were like, okay, this team is kind of trending upwards. And then obviously we saw it happen in the All-Ireland semi-final, I think it was 7-26, but up to score 7 goals in an Ireland semi-final is it's just incredible shooting. So you can see why Cork are rightfully favourites. But you look at Tip and you're thinking they came through a really tough semi-final against Kilkenny. Kind of they've been kind of probably sailing under the radar a small bit, especially here in Munster, with all the talk about Cork and Cork and Limerick earlier in the year, and what could Waterford do after the league and so on. And Clare obviously is All-Ireland champions, and maybe the focus was off Tip a small bit. So I think they'll be, to get to the final. I don't think many people outside of Tip, and even within Tip, would have predicted Tip getting to the final this year. When you look at the teams that are at the starting line, but they're there on merit, and there's a novelty to this game in the fact it's the first ever All-Ireland final between Cork and Tip. Obviously, the counties have met countless times in league and championships and so on. So this is just something different, It's these two counties meeting in the big stage, in the big game for the first time. Cork are going in as favourites. Like I said, I think Tip will relish that underdog status. So there's that expectation on Cork, but they've showed that they can handle that pressure, and they'll have to do it again on Sunday.
Exactly. So, and I suppose you mentioned it there beforehand as well, the 20-year drought, obviously not winning All-Ireland since 2005. Like, is it important for this Cork group now more than ever to win the All-Ireland, especially after losing the final last year in heartbreaking circumstances to Clare as well by a point after extra time?
I think because this just looks like such a good opportunity for this Cork team, and it did after Limerick were knocked out by Dublin. All of a sudden, you're looking at the other side of the draw, and you're thinking, like, obviously you'd have great respect for the other teams that were left, Dublin, Kilkenny, Tipperary, but you are thinking, okay, Limerick are gone. As in, like, they're the real threat, is in terms of a team that knows how to win All-Ireland, knows how to win the big games in Croke Park. Once they were kind of knocked out of the equation, all of a sudden, like, there's no such thing as a kind of a sure bet in a 4-horse race, or even a 2-horse race like we have now. But you're just thinking, this is a great opportunity for this Cork team, considering the teams that are left. Now we're down to the final 2, and it's Cork and Tipperary, and it's almost that same starting point again in terms of a thought process. This is a great opportunity for this Cork team, where they are right now in their journey, what they've achieved this season, obviously the hurt of last season. But last year hurt, of course it did. But look at the learnings that this Cork group would have taken from it. They know what All-Ireland final day looks like now, what it feels like, the noises, the sounds, the drive into Croke Park, the crowd, the hype, the smells, everything. It's kind of that noise before throwing. Like, that won't spook them on Sunday, because they've been there, they've lived through it, so they know what to expect, and think that experience will count to them. I know you could look at the Tip team, and there's a couple of fellas there, 5 or 6, who have All-Ireland medals from previous years, so they have experience too. But this current Cork group were just in this same cauldron, last year, this same environment. So I think that'll stand to them in terms of, you've all this hype, all this noise, all this expectation, but they'll be grounded in the reality of knowing that there is still a job to be done, and a match to be won.
Exactly, and you look at the Cork full forward line in particular, Alan Connolly, Patrick Horgan, Brian Hayes. They've really excelled this year, and when you look at them, they've scored, I think it was 12 goals in the championship overall between the 3 lads. So, like, those guys will be key on Sunday against Tip, I'd imagine. Against a very good Tip defence, may I add as well. I know they could see the 4 goals against Cork, but they will be probably much better than that this Sunday.
Yeah, looking here, Patrick Horgan is 350. You've Brian Hayes 5'8", it's an often play, and Alan Connolly 4'9". So, like, it's their scores in this Cork attack, in that full forward line. If if they get the room to do damage on Sunday, they will. And we saw what these lads are capable of in the semi-final against Dublin, where they just rattled in the goals, and there were some incredible link-up play as well. So Tipperary will be well aware of that. But if we just go back to this Tip team again, Tip didn't concede a goal against Kilkenny. I know Kilkenny got 30 points, but they didn't concede a goal. Go back to the quarter-final before that. Okay, God, we got 2 goals. But looking through Tip's results this year, Laois didn't get a goal against Tip in the All-Ireland preliminary quarter-final. Waterford got 1 goal. So there's this Tip defence has tightened up in recent games. I know Matthew mentioned there about the earlier Munster Championship game. Cork got 4-27 against Tipperary, but Tipperary kind of they've found form since then. They really have. If they kind of 4 or 5 wins in a row now, it just seems everything's kind of. They'll be really happy with the form they're shown going into this game. So for Cork, like any big game, you have to take your chances when they're there. If Cork can settle down with a few early scores on Sunday, I think that's just the start they need. We look back to last year's All-Ireland final. It went well for Cork at stages against Clare before Clare came back into that game. But you just have this feeling, Matthew, that this Cork team is at a different stage in their development. But even to get your thoughts on that, like, can you see the difference yourself, Matthew, between the Cork team we saw against Clare last year's All-Ireland final and what we hope to see this Sunday?
That is leading into the next point I was going to mention, actually. So great minds think alike and all that. But Patrick Collins' puckouts, they've actually improved this season. Like last season, it was probably the downfall against Clare, but the combination or the communication between himself and his backs and his forwards is brilliant this season. Like I mentioned as well, that I think he got, what was it? Cork got 2-5 of the road puckouts in the first half. I know Tip got 2-5 off theirs against Kilkenny as well. Cork got 2-5 against Dublin. But look, like that is a massive improvement for Cork. When you look at it, I think they lost over 50% of their puckouts against Clare, and that was probably a dominating factor, and Clare dominated around the middle. I know they won by a point in the end, but as the great Paddy O'Shea would say, a grain of rice tips the scale, and that was tipping the scale for Clare last season. And you look at as well the attack. Alan Connolly's converted, I think 13 shots out of possibly 18 in the championship, which is very, very good. We'll talk more about that with Diarmuid The Rock O'Sullivan later on. But Patrick Horgan as well, absolutely brilliant in his shooting accuracy. Brian Hayes, brilliant at what he does in setting up attacks as well. So that kind of interplay is really, really improved. But I get your point at Tip, in fairness, with the goals they have conceded. Like even against Waterford, they conceded that goal in the first minute, within the first minute from Stephen Bennett. So you could argue Tip would kind of caught off guard there, but for the rest of the game, they were tight defensively. Laois didn't have a chance in getting a goal against them. And even against Galway, the second goal, I remember, like the game was over at that point. Like Tip didn't really put in much of an effort for that last goal chance there. And even for goal chances, Kilkenny only got 2 goal chances against Tip. So Cork will have some very limited goal chances, but it's about taking each and every one, which they did against Dublin, to be fair. Got 7 goals, or 7 goal chances. That's very, very good. So I think puckouts will be a main thing for Patrick Collins, as well as that. The Cork defence, some of them have massively improved this year. One fella from the Muskerry region, from Inniscarra, Sean O'Donoghue, absolutely outstanding this season and is arguably in contention for an All-Star. So like between Sean O'Donoghue, Patrick Collins, even Niall O'Leary and Owen Downey, they have improved in defensively and from output in their puckouts too.
Yeah, I'm looking here too at as we're talking about this Cork team and the like you said, the shooting efficiency and the goal threat. In the last 4 championship meetings between Cork and Tip, and this is going back to 2022, Cork scored 3 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals, and 4 goals. As in, Cork have won the last 4 championship meetings between them. Okay, all Munster championship games, but in that time, in those 4 games, Cork has scored 15 goals. Kind of it just like this Cork in recent form. Cork do score goals against Tip. If Cork get 4 goals on Sunday, Matthew, I think you can start cranking up the parade, the celebrations. Kind of. I think if you see Cork getting 4 goals, like they're going to have one hand on the Liam MacCarthy, because we've seen this Cork team improve. We've seen them kind of develop from where they were last year. They're a better team now than they were this time 12 months ago. That's a testament, obviously, to Pat Ryan and his management team. They've done an incredible job to just pick this team up after the disappointment of 2024 and just improve them and make them reach a new level. And that's what they'll have to do on Sunday. Just reach that new level. Do that. I think they'll be pretty hard to stop.
Exactly. So, and like even look at some of the performances this season around midfield. Tim O'Mahony, Darragh Fitzgibbon have been absolutely brilliant. Patrick Collins in goal has been superb as well. Even the matchups up top. I know Tip. We mentioned Cork's attack, but Tip's attack is as lethal. Jason Ford, brilliant this season. I think 80% shot accuracy throughout the whole championship this season, and scored 15 points against Cork in the game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, as we mentioned. Liam MacCarthy has potential to fire. I know he got a red card early on in that game against Tip against Cork before the game even started. But he's a very, very talented young player. So is John McGrath, 5 goals in the championship this season, 5 goals and 14 from play. So Tip's forwards are very, very good. But Cork's defence seems to be improving game on game too. So that'll be kind of an interesting battle.
It will, yeah. It's just, there's so many different facets to this game, isn't there, Matthew, in terms of kind of it's such an intriguing game. Like we said earlier, just that novelty factor. It's the first time that these two counties are meeting in the All-Ireland final. But we have kind of how will the tip backs hold this Cork attack? But the same can be said for how will the Cork backs cope against a really strong, like you mentioned there, really strong Tipperary attack with the likes of the Jason Fords, the Diarmuid MacCarthys, John McGrath. Like you see there, Jake Morris has 22 points and Drew Ormond has chipped in with 213. Like there's scores in this in this Tipperary team as well. So and they've been kind of putting in big scores. And look at him here now, right, through the Munster Championship, right? Tip put up 223 against Limerick, 24 points against Cork was their lowest score, 418 against Clare, 130 against Waterford, 332 against Laois, 128 against Galway, 420 against Kilkenny. They're big scores. Like this Tip team knows how to score, so there will be pressure on the Cork defence. But like you mentioned there, the likes of Sean O'Donoghue and players like that in the back who've really stepped up this year, and they'll have to produce it again because Cork have been so impressive up to this stage. But the season, and as harsh as it sounds, it will be defined by what happens on Sunday. You know, if Cork lose the second All-Ireland in a row, it's kind of, oh God, you know, kind of, is the county ever going to win another All-Ireland? Like this 20-year wait is actually Cork's longest ever wait for the Liam MacCarthy, you know, kind of. But if you win, all of a sudden that mood music changes, and we could be looking at, geez, this Cork team, their age profile, where they're at is in kind of onwards and upwards, you know, kind of. So it's so much depends on the result, and so it's just the hope is that Cork are moving in the right direction at the right time, and I think they are. I think what we've seen in the last couple of games, it just kind of, it gives you almost this kind of gut feeling, as in like this team is on the cusp of something. But they just have to go out there and do it now. They have to produce the goods.
Exactly. So I think we've kind of gathered that both of us are probably predicting a Cork win, but Tip to put up a big test. But we'll have to see what happens on Sunday. And of course, we will have that interview with Diarmuid The Rock O'Sullivan in just a while as well. But before we get into that, it's worth mentioning he was in the 2005 team, fullback, absolutely brilliant player in his day as well. And he would have known how to win All-Ireland. So he's probably the best man to kind of talk about All-Ireland final day and the hype and everything like that. And some tactics in around, because he is a renowned coach right now as well. So like he's probably one of the better people to come on a podcast and talk about this game in detail.
It's just absolutely brilliant to have Diarmuid O'Sullivan on the Star Sport podcast this week, Matthew. Like you said, when it comes to someone being qualified to talk about hurling, kind of they don't come much better than Diarmuid O'Sullivan. Like as a player, an All-Ireland winner, he's a legend in the eyes of Cork fans, and you can see why with his style when he played, you know, kind of his aggression, his will to win, that determination. And like you said, post his playing days, he's transitioned into coaching and that side of it. So he's the ideal person just to almost kind of, he's been in these players' shoes, you know, he knows what it's like to be in an All-Ireland final. The one difference is he knows what it's like to win an All-Ireland final, and he'll be hoping that the current crop of Cork players will have that similar feeling to what he had in 2005, that they'll feel the exact same when it comes to around 5:30 on Sunday evening. So like brilliant to get the Rock on, and I think we've talked enough at this stage, so I think we need to hear what yourself and Diarmuid O'Sullivan spoke about.
So did I be joined on the podcast this week by Diarmuid O'Sullivan, Cork hurling legend, obviously, to discuss this weekend's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final between Cork and Tipperary. I suppose the obvious question first is, Diarmuid, are you looking forward to this Sunday?
Yeah, I think, Matt, look, ever since the final whistle went in the semi-final, I think every Cork supporter has been, the clock, even though you never wish away time, I think every Cork supporter has been, just waiting for this Sunday to come. And I know it's early in the week, but it's just the excitement, the sheer will of wanting to get to Dublin to support the team. It's it's going to be a big weekend.
I suppose, does this kind of bring back memories for yourself? Obviously, you were part of the team that won the All-Ireland in 2005 as well. So all the build-up, does that bring back kind of memories?
Yeah, that's probably the only thing where there's similar at the moment is the build-up. Obviously the game has changed. Everything else around the game has changed, but the similarities of the build-up have remained the same. You're trying to, it's very hard, unfortunately, for the Cork players at the moment to keep the what's the word I'm looking for? I suppose there's a lot of noise there, right? There's a lot of noise. There's expectation. There's huge expectation. Obviously the old enemies in the way, but for Pat and his management team and the players to be able to keep a lid on that, it's a tough thing to do. But if you were looking for an example then of who does it best, it's probably Patrick Horgan. Like, if you look at Patrick Horgan, all the talk will be about Patrick Horgan when he finally get over the line, when he get it. But Patrick is incredible. He seems to be able to encompass himself in this bubble, and everything outside the bubble doesn't affect him. And I think a lot of the younger players will be leaning on his experience over the last number of weeks again, just to get him over, get them through the next couple of days, because obviously the game is paramount for players.
You talked about Patrick Horgan there, like even with age, he still has, I think, over 70% shot accuracy this season overall. He scored at obviously Cork's top scorer as well. It seems like he's improving with age as well. Do you kind of feel that from this year?
Oh, his shot percentage is really, really high. But I suppose Patrick has changed his game over the last number of years. Patrick has now realised that the quality of player around him are equally as good a finisher or finishers as what Patrick is himself. Because look, his record is standalone. He's the highest scorer. He's the highest scorer of all time across the championship, across the National Hurling League. His record speaks for himself. But I think Patrick has adjusted his game now, because he has realised it does, the full responsibility of getting the score we needed does not have to fall to me the whole time, because obviously he has Alan and Brian beside him. He has Decky outside him. He has Shane Barrett. He has huge options now. So his ability to use the ball and keep others in play when the option isn't on is, it's been a huge help to him. And I think the guys have added to that, and I think they've given him confidence that he knows if he gives them the ball, that look, the result is going to be the same.
And you talked about the forwards around Patrick Horgan this year and the whole team in general. Is this kind of the best crop players that Cork have had in a long while in trying to win the All-Ireland?
If you go through the squad in depth, like there is a seriously talented group there, okay? You have Shamey, Connor and Patrick, who are obviously the elder statesmen of the group. But even you just reflect on Connor there for a second. The games he has come in and the games he has taken part in. He's given an impetus to Cork every time he's come on the field again, and he's given them the advantage. So, like, you have your three elder statesmen, but after that, the average age of the panel is quite good. So, Matt, Cork hurling is in a good place. There's a really, really good squad there. Pat has a big call to make. Obviously, the word in the street is Shamey will be fit to take his place in the squad. Fit to start, obviously, is another question. But like, someone's going to be extremely disappointed to be left out of the match to 26 again. So the squad there's healthy competition there. Even the extended panel players there who played in their club league finals this weekend, like, they're quality players. So it's the squad is in a good place, yes.
And I suppose you mentioned like the impact from the bench there in Conor Lehan. Obviously, another few players, Shane Kingston scoring 2 off the bench the last day as well, doing brilliant in the last few games. But even if you look at the other side with Tip, Oisin O'Donoghue has been a revelation this year off the bench. So the bench will be important on Sunday, I'd imagine.
Oh, come here. Like, yeah, you mentioned Oisin O'Donoghue, but they've obviously Noel McGrath coming into the team as well. Like, if there's any two players that are symbolic to Tipperary hurling, it's two McGraths. Like, I have huge admiration and respect for Noel and John McGrath. And as you said, you throw young O'Donoghue in there as well. Um, they they have depth. They have depth. Some will argue it's not the levels aren't the same. They don't go as deep as the Cork levels, but each one of them Tipperary players are impacting for Liam Cal every time he brings them on the field.
And you look at even some of the Cork players that have made big impacts this year, especially around the defensive line. Patrick Collins and goals really improved. Sean O'Donoghue's arguably been an all-star form. Like the defence has really improved as the season has gone. Do you kind of feel that as well?
Yeah, and look, to be fair, you mentioned like it's funny you mentioned Sean O'Donoghue. Not only is he kind of nailed on for an all-star, I think Sean O'Donoghue deserves to be in a conversation for Hurler of the Year, to be honest with you. Sean's performances have been outstanding. When Niall has played, like you look at Damien came in against Limerick. What did Damien Callahan do? It was absolutely exceptional for a guy who hadn't played championship in over 14 months. Diarmuid has come on at various different times. You've lost Robert Downey at times. Cormac O'Brien was in the team has got out injured. Like you've a couple of constants in Owen and Mark Coleman. Okay, plus your 9, 10 deep options there for a defensive line. So you have to perform.
And you look at even the fact in the semi-final, Cork got, I think, 2-5 off Patrick Collins' puck out to the second half. Then they kind of changed it up and got 3-8 off turnovers. Like that ability to change, like Pat Collins' puck outs and the work rate as well. Both of them seem to be going very, very well this year too.
Yeah, look, Cork. Cork have worked extremely hard, and you can see this. You can see the results of the puck out. It's just not a one season wonder. It has taken Cork a number of seasons to kind of, I won't say perfect it because they never perfect it, but the options around their puck out are a big, big plus. Patrick will need to conduct everything. If Cork are to be successful again at the weekend, Patrick will need to be, he's going to be central to that because, as we know, each keeper will have the ball in his hand 40 to 50 times. So if Cork can, as you said, 2-5 in the first half, then as you said, they switched up to sheer work rate. But it's for Cork to be in the right show. Patrick would have to be extremely sharp. He will obviously have to have multiple options, multiple runners looking for balls. So it's not just about him pucking out the ball. It's the decisions that are being made further out the field. And I think if you look at the way the Cork structure and the Cork puck out structure works, I think Shane Barrett is central to that. Okay, he's young, but the way in rugby you have a line out, you have a captain, you have a line out captain, a guy who calls the line outs, who orchestrates the line outs. I suppose Shane is the puck out captain in the Cork, while he's the vice captain, he's a puck out captain within the Cork setup, and you can see, a lot of the stuff has been run through him and the type of puck out that Cork are using.
I suppose as well, like another kind of aspect to this game, when you look at Cork's full forward line, you mentioned that earlier on, Horgan, Hayes, Connolly, like every chance kind of Connolly gets, he kind of takes. I think he's converted 13 out of 18 shots across the whole championship this year, so that is going to be a plus for Cork.
Huge plus. Look, any guy who can do that is worth his weight in gold. But the only thing with Alan, I think Alan has to do a small bit more without the ball. While he's very, very good on the ball, I think Alan has to do a small bit more when Cork are out of possession, just to aid Cork in getting the ball back. If it's only pushing out 10, 15 yards, condensing the field, even with Patrick and Alan, Brian Hayes is exceptional at it. Brian Hayes is exceptional when Cork are on the ball and when they're without the ball. And to be fair, Decky Dalton and Young Doddsy are the same. They're exceptional at squeezing the field, cutting out opportunities. So if Patrick and Alan can condense that space a small bit more, give midfield and defenders an opportunity to sit back, Cork could be very hard to beat.
When you look at Cork's kind of journey to the final this year, the Munster final against Limerick was seen as a turning point in terms of the performance level there. Against Dublin, their shooting accuracy went way up, 76%.
Way up.
What do you think was kind of the turning point in terms of performance for Cork this year? Was the Limerick game in the Munster final or the Dublin game in the semi?
You could probably go back a bit further than that. Excuse me. Even if you go back to the Gaelic grounds the first night, like Cork were overwhelmed and overran by Limerick, right? And there was a lot of talk and a lot of speculation about what Cork had done, what they had done, what Limerick had done, what they hadn't done. But I think ultimately it was the wake up call that Cork needed. I think it re-galvanized them, it reorganized them. Obviously Cork needed to get their best players back fully fit and available. So once Pat realigned it and steadied the ship there, I think he made huge progress. So I think that was the reset that Cork needed was that night in Limerick. And I think since that, Cork have been steadily improving in all facets of their game since, as you said, their puck out retention has come up. The amount of opposition puck outs they've won, their turnover rate, their scoring ratio, everything has gone up. So that doesn't happen by chance. There was something, that reset was hit, and Cork have obviously gone back to their KPIs or their metrics. Said, guys, this is our standard where we are. We didn't meet that standard. We need to fight. We need to get ourselves back and get ourselves reorganized and re-energized here. And I think credit to everyone who was involved in that turnaround. I think they've managed to do it.
You look at the other side as well, like Tips full forward line. We talk about Cork's full forward line, but Tips is equally as threatening. Jason Ford, 80% shot accuracy this year across the whole championship. Liam MacCarthy, when he has played, has been brilliant. So is John McGrath in terms of goalkeeping as well. What do you think the matchups will be in the Cork defence? I know Sean O'Donoghue went on Liam MacCarthy the last time out. Obviously, Dara gets sent off before the game even started. But what do you think the matchups will be on Sunday?
Look, obviously Tipperary lost McCarthy in the last, but Jason Ford was really, really busy inside in the full forward, and it was a 1-5 or 1-6 maybe that he hit. John McGrath got 1-2. Like, John McGrath is okay. You have your Jason Ford, you have young McCarthy, but it's John McGrath I'd worry about, because John McGrath gets more satisfaction not only of scoring, but John McGrath's assist rate is through the roof. If you look down through his career. So John McGrath is an exceptional player. He's exceptionally talented. He sees things that other players don't see. So that's why McCarthy and Jason Ford and these guys are really benefiting from his experience and his ability to play key passes and assist scores. So if I was a betting man, you probably will have Niall O'Leary pick up John McGrath, possibly Owen Downey Owen will probably pick up Jason Ford, similar to last game, and obviously Sean would pick up young McCarthy.
So we talked about matchups, we talked about the aspects of the game, but the main kind of question: do you think Cork can do it on Sunday?
I think there's a weight of expectation, Matt. Right, it's hard to believe, right, that this time 20 years ago we were okay. It was a small bit later in the year, but we were preparing for an All-Ireland final. It's hard to believe it that it's been that long since Cork have been successful. It's there's a whole generation of youngsters out there have yet to see Cork win, and that's frightening for a county of our size. It's absolutely frightening. The weight of expectation is huge. If Cork keep their feet firmly on the ground and keep the outside noise out and apply themselves like they have since the reset of the first Limerick game, I think it could be, while it won't be as clear cut as what people will make out, I've no doubt Cork have the ammunition to be successful.
We've all hope that Cork will do it on Sunday, obviously. Thank you, Norbert, for your time on the podcast this week, and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Brilliant, Matt. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So it is that time of the week again where we look at what's in this Thursday's Southern Star Sports section, and I think it's safe to say, Kieran, we've hurling fever down here.
100%, and obviously hurling is front and centre in this Thursday Southern Star Sport, where we're our preview of the big match, and we have a couple of West Cork angles in there as well. I know we don't have that huge Carbery representation on the Cork senior hurling panel. We have Luke Mead from Newcestown flying our flag here, but this is still a very kind of very proud hurling country. So I've a kind of an opinion piece, a comment piece saying, can West Cork strike while the ash is hot, in terms of Cork hurling is riding the crest of a wave at the moment, but can West Cork and Carbery hurling get in on that? So I caught up with Alan Foley of O'Donovan, Rossa, Chad Wilson of Newcestown, and Joe Ryan of Ballinascarty, but now the Kilbrittain hurling manager, just to get their thoughts on how Carbery hurling can benefit from the noise and the swell of support around the Cork hurlers. On top of that, we set Tom Lyons a challenge to name the best West Cork hurlers that you've ever seen, and Tom's delivered. This is a super piece. It's really worth checking out, and it does prove that there's a lot of top class hurlers here in West Cork and have been over the years. Matthew, you have a super piece about Patrick Collins. We spoke about him earlier in the podcast. Is the Cork #1 from Ballinhassig. So this is a bit about Patrick Collins and his journey to this stage and the work he's put in and the feeling in his local community, how proud they are of their local hero. On top of that, we've interviews with Robert Downey, Kieran Joyce, Pat Ryan. We've so much in there, so it really is worth checking out our big match preview. And on top of that, loads more as well. Sticking with hurling for a second, we had the County Hurling League finals last weekend, and Diarmuid O'Sullivan are the team that just can't stop winning at the moment. They won the Division 7 final, so we've reported reaction from that, and also from Bandon and Newcestown's various County Hurling League finals as well. Turning to rowing for a second, the Irish Rowing Championships were on at the National Rowing Centre last weekend, and Skibbereen Rowing Club did it. They have become the first rowing club in the country to ever win 200 Irish Rowing Championship titles. So we've a full report from that. We've also news from the recent Cork City Sports and how the West Cork athletes fared. And for fans of martial arts, I've had a quick catch up with Tony Stevenson, our two-time world kickboxing champion, talk about his recent Total Combat experience that didn't go too well. He suffered a really controversial loss and he's not a happy man. So check out Thursday's Southern Star for that. And have to mention our road bowlers as well. We had the All-Ireland Road Bowling Championships that were on in Castletown, Kenna over the weekend, and two local men came out on top, or two local bowlers, sorry, with Brian O'Driscoll from Drimmer League, and we had Tommy Coppinger winning the All-Ireland Under-12 boys title. He's the son of Martin Coppinger, a former senior winner. So there's that, and there's a lot more. And also the fact that the Lions are playing on the Lions in Australia, the first test this weekend. We've the story of John Fehele, the West Cork Wallaby, in there. That's well worth checking out. And I also caught up with Caoimhe Murphy from Rossmore, who's been named on the Munster women's rugby squad. This is a remarkable story, Matthew, because she only took up rugby 2 years ago with Clan. She's already on the Munster women's senior rugby squad. So as you can see, we're absolutely packed this Thursday.
Absolutely so, and as well as the brilliant sports section that there is, there's also a magazine inside this week's Southern Star, West Fork, should I say, magazine inside this week's edition. Don't miss your guide into all that's great about food culture in West Cork, with some West Cork recipes sprinkled in between. And as usual, if you are further afield or can't make it to the shops, you could subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/subscribe, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Until then, take care.